Well, good morning and welcome to Buddha's in Your Landfill or Your Moment of Zen. We have a good, I want to say we have a good show for you today, kind of like Jon Stewart or something. Anyway, it really is a big show day, given the news yesterday with the congressional or the FBI investigating Trump campaign as being official. It's kind of like the sky is falling. So we're going to pick this up. We're looking at Avatar as a metaphor, and also in the evening I've been looking at Hitchcock's Vertigo as a metaphor. And again, it's very difficult to talk about metaphor because we really don't understand. The modern mind doesn't understand what metaphor is. This is what I learned from Joseph Campbell, who spent his whole life trying to explain metaphor. So let's take a look at what we're looking at here with Avatar, and if I bring in Vertigo, is that we want to boil the story down to a formula that doesn't have any reference to the story as fact, you see. And we do that with, say, take politics, take today's political scene. That also has metaphorical meaning if you can boil it down to a formula that doesn't have any historical facts to it. Because if it has historical facts to it, then you reference the meaning to your story. In other words, then you get into a political argument about, well, what about Obama and what about Hillary and oh, she didn't do this or that, you see, or Trump did this or that. Then you lose the metaphorical, you lose the transcendent when you get mired down in argument over opinion and facts. You see that's the quicksand of Facebook, where I hang out a lot. Because we get mired down into our reference versus your reference. So if you get a conflict over what's real, each side reference the real to their story of reality. And so then you get, there's no way to understand the whole because each is referencing the meaning of reality to their center. So let's move from there. So yesterday, wait a minute. Here's yesterday's story. We ended up here talking about the vortex or a no man's land where there are two realities presented to you and you can't choose between them. Now we experience this in everyday situations. I do it all the time when I go to the get a shopping list and go to Walmart. My wife gives me, go get this, so I go get it. And there's always some item on there that is not clear. Maybe it's not a generic, or maybe there's, but when I get to the shelf, there might be 2 or 3 choices there, and I don't know which one is the real one. So that creates a panic that maybe not panic is a little bit, but that creates an anxiety that I'll make the wrong choice, you see, and then I'll be faulted. Well, you didn't get the right one. Can't lift the hammer. This is my own particular little fun neurosis, so I don't blame it on everybody, but I always deal with this from a sense of humor because it's funny. But anyway, you can see that or you get somebody gives you a package or something and you can't figure out how to open it. Do I do this or that? If I do that, I might rip it. And then you'll be oh, you ripped it. You should have saved that, Or, you know what, these are little things, but they're also big, you see. But we can notice them because they create a oscillation, a confusion, an uncertainty between choices. And a choice creates reality. This is an important idea. When I make a choice, I am choosing reality, and I'm also choosing myself because I'm in the reality I choose. If I choose to go that way, I'm going to create a whole different world than I would if I went that way. And I'm going to live in it. And the whole cosmos will be affected by that, you see? The whole cosmos for eternity will be affected by my choice, whether I go that way or that way. So there's a lot of pressure. You got to make the right choice. If you believe in a dual, in other words, there's the. I'm just kind of like saying what what's behind the fear of making a choice when there are two contradictory choices, each of which seems to have equal weight, you see. So how do we get out of that situation? Because that is a vertigo situation. When you're caught, that's the labyrinth that Ariadne's thread leads us out of, you see. It's that idea that that's when you stick the microphone up against an amplifier and it goes, wow, 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 wow. When you can't make a choice, you're in a tape loop of the snake eating its own tail, and it magnifies. It eats itself, so the energy, you see, when it's self-magnifying, because it's eating its own energy and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just like Pac-Man. See, it's getting bigger. Wow, 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 wow. So the pain of that is tremendous because it is going into a vertigo. It is going into a I always think of the first Superman movie, and the bad guys, these aliens, I don't know, they were caught and they were punished and they were put in wafers, and the wafers were sent off in space. Okay, so that's kind of like the vortex of space, or like if you're an astronaut and you're in a spacesuit and you're having a walk around your rocket, and you get disconnected and you drift off into space. So that's that feeling of being sucked into space, endless space, is the vortex. And that vortex is waiting for us when we can't make a choice. Wow, 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 you see. And it happens in small things or happens in big things. And we all experience this. Some people have panic attacks all the time, like James Stewart in Vertigo. That was a panic attack of vertigo. But we're looking at what triggers panic. Why do we have panic? Why this fear of this is fear of death. So let's move this on here, because we're looking about the Avatar was a metaphor about this vertigo when Jake Sully is caught between the Sky people and the Navi people, the Sky world and the Pandora world, were two different realities, two absolute different felt visual realities, and he was in a no man's land between the two. He was rejected by the Sky people and he was rejected by the Navi. He was neither. He was both. He was lost. He was in the dark night of the soul. This is a mystical place. This is also the great doubt that Zen wants to awaken, where you question everything. Where you question everything. Is this no man's land here? And the hero, on the hero's journey, has to go through no man's land. This is a portal. We have to go through it in order to get to the other shore, or in order to get to wholeness, where we're no longer split between two realities. So let's pick this up, because we kind of like tie it into today's news, because we're looking at a national or American vertigo. An American avatar, in the sense that we are, since yesterday's flat out report, no doubt about it, that the FBI is investigating the presidency of the United States. There is a sense of vertigo here, of something is collapsing, something's not right, something we can't depend on, something is, the sand is falling through, the rug is unraveling, our reality is unraveling. Either there's certain reactions to that is we double down and hold on, or we let go and fall. So this is a vertigo moment. So let's take a look at this. Reference using we're tying together, avatar, vertigo, and our own presidency. So let's look at the sky people in Avatar. Now the sky people are basically a modern society. We're sky people. And the reality we create is created by thought. We're mind people. It's created by thought. And in thought, a thought reality is like an umbrella or a tent. And you have to hold the tent up. So there's got to be a center. There's got to be something that cannot fall. There's got to be something that you depend upon. There's got to be something that holds the tent of reality up. And you have to defend that center at all costs. Because if that tent pole comes down, reality comes down, and you fall into the abyss of the vortex, which is a feeling of death, a fear of death, you see. I don't exist. Because this reality tent that we create, and we all do it, we create this reality tent, holds me, you see. So I invest in this reality tent, and the tent pole, which is external, in me is the same. So if this, let's use Trump as an example, and I don't want to knock this into a political argument where you say, wait a minute, what is, so forth. We're just trying to look at this as a formula. And if the president, this is whatever president, whether it's whatever president is elected, those who elect the president live in the reality that the president creates through his policy, through his salesmanship, through his vision, through his political view, through his party, and whatever. So this is a reality tent, and the president, if I invest in that political view, the tent pole is the president, and I am the tent pole. So this is a metaphor. I am the president, and the president is to be. This is a metaphor. This is a paradox. So you say, I am the president, and I am not the president. That is a metaphor. But that is a feeling relationship we have with the leader we invest in. It could be a minister in your church. It could be a church. It could be a religion or any political party. It could be a gang or a group. Any thought reality which holds people together is kind of like that tent pole thing, and there's got to be a tent pole, a leader, some central idea, some principle, something that is permanent, that is steady and stuck in the earth, that you can hold a reality that can raise this tent up, and everybody can come up under the tent and feel protected from the abyss. So this abyss, you see, this vertigo, is surrounding this thought reality, and we all go in there and keep away and keep death out and keep the vertigo out, you see. But there has to be a tent pole. There has to be some totem, some magic tree, some center, some idol, some god, something that holds it up, you see, and that has to be defended at all costs. Because if that goes down, I go down, and I fall into the vertigo with James Stewart. See? So now let's contrast that here to Pandora, getting back to the movie. So you have the sky people who live in a thought world, and then you have Pandora, which is a now world, or you could say body world. So there in Pandora, there is no thought umbrella holding everything up. It is a felt. Now, this is a loose interpretation, but I'm just trying to get the formula down here to some basics. And that in as Jake Sully discovers when he goes into Pandora, that the reality there is felt. So it's wondrous. So the meaning in Pandora is the flowers, remember the flowers blooming? And everything is felt. So the meaning in Pandora is what is felt. It's not reference to some story of Pandora that depends on some false external center. You see, so even though you can say, well, the Navi depended on the home tree, that's true. Their tribe depended upon the home tree. But let's just for the moment let's move more towards Zen, my favorite stopping place. So in Zen, when the rug is pulled out from under you and the tent collapses, you discover that meaning is in just this. It's not reference to your mind, which is the past, you see. This is past. This thought world is reference to ideas which are in memory or the past. So this world here is reference to what has already happened, but this world here of the body of Pandora is not reference to the past because it's happening now. So when there's a shift and you live in now, which Pandora is a metaphor of, everything is new. And everything is felt as one. So Jake Sully has to learn how to ride his horse and his dragon. How does he steer it? He wants to steer it like that, which would be the way the sky person steers a horse, you see, is that the sky person is separate from the horse. So I got to control the horse. But the horse and the Pandora is you don't control the horse, you are the horse. So when you bond with the horse, if you want to go left, the horse goes left because you and the horse are one. You just go left. You just will the left. Same with the dragon. You just fly, and you and the dragon are one, you see. So this whole thing here in Pandora was a metaphor for being at one with the world. And this metaphor, this world here is being separate from the world. But we can't live separate from the world. That is the abyss, you see. So how do we become separate? How do we become united in the world? We become united through an idea. So we become one with the world by getting under a thought umbrella with a center that cannot fall. And then I get other people under there with me, because that affirms that the umbrella, the more people I get under the thought umbrella, the more real the thought umbrella feels, you see. But you have a world here full of other thought umbrellas. So you have other worlds here. You got, well, if this is a Republican umbrella, well, then you got the Democratic umbrella. Or if this is a Christian, then you got the Muslims. You see, so this, as soon as you raise an umbrella and have a center pole, which is your leader or your idol or your god or your statue or your whatever you have, you see, that immediately creates other umbrellas. Because it is the definition of your umbrella depends upon other umbrellas being wrong. So I have the right one, and I know it's right because they're wrong. You see, so I am me because I'm not that. So this creates a world. It looks like the beach with everybody living under an umbrella, and the biggest umbrella is the strongest because it has the more people under it. You see, but all of these umbrellas are dependent upon a tent pole. And reality is like the tide, and reality is like the wind, and it shakes these umbrellas, you know. Ooh. And the fear of the abyss, the fear of the vertigo, the feeling of the vertigo is always the shadow that surrounds the umbrella, you see. And so America today, the umbrella of the presidency, the tent pole that holds up the American reality, the believed in president, the believed in reality that he paints, you see, is being shaken, you see. And so there is an anxiety rippling through the world, not only America, but through the whole world, because the American presidency is what everyone in the world depends upon. All of the interconnections, all of the systems, the whole circuitry of the modern world that creates all this stuff that we love and enjoy here, this internet, all this stuff, you see, is dependent upon the system holding together, and the American presidency has been the tentpole that is stable, and it's not threatened by armed revolt. It's not threatened by a coup d'etat, or the military is not going to take over America, you see. And we're the strongest in the world, so nobody's going to come in and invade us, you see. So there's been this certainty, this security in the umbrella that is held up by the tentpole of the American presidency. So the American presidency is not a person, you see, because the persons come and go. The tentpole stays the same. See what I mean? The tentpole is not a person. The tentpole is our Constitution, and it allows people to come and go. So every 4 years or 8 years, we get a new person to hold up the tentpole. And then he goes and somebody else comes in and holds. So it's like the battle flag of the army, and you select the most honorable. It's an honor to hold up the flag in battle, you know. And even though you get shot, somebody else grabs the flag. So the presidency is kind of like that, you see. And now it's being shaken. Now there is an investigation into the integrity of the tentpole. And it's going to have a reaction. The people who invest in the tentpole are going to hold it up stronger. They're going to cling to it because the abyss is yawning. The tide is coming in, and the sand is the tide is coming in, and the sand around the tentpole is getting wet, and the tent's going to collapse, you see. So there's this. I hope we can. This is a great, a very anxious no man's land that we're in right now. People came. This has never happened before. Well, 9/11 was a no man's land because the tent pole that 9/11, those two towers were like the tent pole of American society, and nobody could. If you've ever saw those towers, nobody could bring those down. You see, nobody could bring down those towers, and boom, some box cutters brought them down. So this created a tremendous psychic trauma that we're vulnerable, that America is vulnerable, and vulnerability is the abyss. Vulnerability is the vertigo. We don't want to be vulnerable. We want to be strong, you see. And so the reaction to the abyss is more strength. Now let's take on Iraq. We need to have a war. We need to get more military. We need to get strong. That is the reaction to the vulnerability of the abyss, you see. So we don't go through it. We double down on the tentpole. But that doubling down on the tentpole does not stop the abyss, does not stop the tide, does not stop the wind, does not stop change. Okay? So we really have to go through this. And when we come out on the other side, we're going to come out in Pandora, which is a greater unity. So in order to get to, we've all been, for the last 50 years, I know I have, is that we have been frustrated by the gridlock of the red and blue culture war. That just is the oscillation of wah, wah, wah. I can't choose one or the other. It's 50-50. So we've been in this oscillation of no man's land for decades. And the frustration of that, of course, elected Trump, who came in to say, I'll fix it. Okay? So now the fixer is trembling. The tent, the fixer is pushing us towards the abyss, you see. So even the fixer is pushing her towards this vulnerability. So we're going to have to go through it. There's no way out now. We're going to have to go through this vertigo. We're going to have to go through the fear so we can come out the other side where we can create a greater America or a greater vision or a greater unity, which will stop the oscillation of the I can't choose, you see. And it's very ironic because we thought at least a proportion of the people thought they had chosen the unity that would restore America when they chose Trump. And now that umbrella is shaking. So we're going to have to go through. And that's scary because that's the unknown. We don't know what's on the other side of the abyss. We don't know who we are. We don't know what America is on the other side of the abyss, you see. But change, which is life, is forcing us that way because we can't stay in no man's land any longer. We have to go through. So let's leave it there. And we'll pick this up tomorrow. And I hope we can put a little wider angle on what's happening to us as an example of what's happening to each of us. Like this, there's a fundamental truth in truth, and that is that the inside reflects the outside, and the outside reflects the inside. So I am the world, and the world is me. You are the world, and the world is you. So you are not separated from the world, but the world out there that we see, what looks separate from me, is really a reflection of me. Not factually, but in the way it works, you see. So I can discover myself, and this is why metaphors, what I mean by metaphors, I can discover what I cannot see in myself by seeing the external world, movies, events, news, metaphorically, that reflects me. So then the external world becomes a lever or a means by which I can see myself. Because I can't see myself. You can't see yourself. You can't see your mind and how it works like it's a schematic on a computer or like it's the diagram of an engine. You can see how that works, but you can't see how your mind works. But we can see how the mind works by seeing its reflection in the external world. And that requires the metaphor which says, I am that and I am not that. I am both. So there's an ambiguity here. Okay? I am Avatar, I am not Avatar. I am Jake Sully, I am not Jake Sully, but I am both at the same time. So if you hold the opposites, simultaneously, you suspend the need to choose one or the other. Think about that. When you're in a fix, when I go to the market and I've got an ambiguous shopping list and I don't know I don't know how to choose the item, this triggers my little neurosis, and I laugh. Okay, and laughter holds the opposites. Laughter holds opposites simultaneously. That's what creates laughter. We laugh when two opposites are held together as one simultaneously. Laughter holds them together and liberates us from the gridlock, from the pain of the abyss. So laughter is the vehicle that will take us through the abyss. Laughter is our horse. Laughter is our dragon. Laughter is the way through the abyss of the vertigo. Okay, I'll see you at Martini time and we'll have another laugh.